join. We'll just, there's Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Scott. More people are joining. It's cool.
Well,
okay.
Those meetings running late.
Yeah. I want to get started, and so we can get as much information about search as we can. Thanks for tuning in to this month's Omaha 365 user group meeting. I just wanted to go over a couple of things here. If you go to our website, you'll see upcoming meetings in April. We have Michael Knoll. He's going to be talking about security and securing your IT against modern threats. And then that's on April 1st, actually. And then on May 6th, we'll have Sherry Oswald. She's been at our in-person conference before speaking, and she's going to be talking about Microsoft Forms. So that'll be in May, and that's so far what we have booked, and we're still looking for the rest of the year. So anyway, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you for volunteering to speak to us today, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
No worries. All right, let's throw some slides up so we can at least not worry about that too much. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I realize you've all muted your microphones here, but I guess that's because you're busy eating sandwiches and whatever else you've got on your table for lunch, as this is a lunchtime session. I will try not to start nibbling crisps or, of course, at this time of night, drinking whiskey, I guess. But as you can imagine, I'm sitting here in good old Europe, so we're a few hours ahead of you. So what are we going to do in the next hour or so? Well, basically, I'm going to try and answer any questions you like. So you can take the microphones, you can unmute them. I really don't mind. I am dead flexible. If you want to turn your cameras on, that's fine. If you want to listen in the background while you're working, that's fine. I really, really don't care. Anybody that can read Japanese, then anybody know what it says on the slide? No? Okay, good. Didn't think you would do it. I thought this. That actually says not from Japan. And the really disappointing thing is that in this day, I should actually have been in Japan. So Maureen and myself were planning on doing this presentation from Japan, but actually we're not in Japan, which is very, very frustrating. We were supposed to go over to Ignite a few years ago, and then we had the flight tickets. So we decided we'd do a tour of Japan. So we had to put it off a few times, but, you know, like everybody else, not traveling. So I decided today we'll give you the banner, not in Japan. But what are we going to look at today? We're going to do look at a presentation from our series, kind of working with the business. So this is not overly technical, okay? We're not going to dig around and dig into how and whatever. We're obviously going to talk about search. We're going to talk about the capabilities. But search, same as Viva nowadays, is taking us more and more into the business camp. So a lot of what I want to talk about is how we can create better relationships with the business as IT departments. So, you know, there we're good. So just to start off with, so I can get some idea of the business, if you can jump into the chat and actually tell me whether you're an IT person or whether you are a business person, that would be great. And I will try and work out how I bring the chat up on here, because at the moment I have participants. Give me the chat. And I'm sitting here failing at the moment to find the chat. I'll dig it out in a minute or two, but I'll just keep going. But that's cool. So, yes, so basically working with the business. So my name's Steve Dalby. I've been in this SharePoint game and Office 365 game probably longer than most people around here, and ever since it started. So I kind of worked on the very first release of SharePoint. You can find me on the handle SciSteve, or if you just do a Google search on SciSteve, then you'll find me there. You may well know me from Office 365 Distilled. Maureen and I have been doing this podcast now for nearly 3 years. It's a very, very chilled out podcast. The tagline is two guys in a bar talking crap, but we talk about Office 365 in all kinds of different guises and making it better. And then we usually finish off with a great whiskey at the end of it, which is turning out to be quite a lot of fun. And I guess I should also say we've started a YouTube channel called Whiskey at Ease. So if you do like a whiskey or two, by all means, check it out. And yeah, you can see that lowly number of 18 subscribers. We've only just started the channel about 5 weeks ago. So yes, subscribe to the channel, go find it. It's called Whiskey at Ease. And it's about a whiskey journey around the world to different places. And we spent most of yesterday recording our next series of videos. So that's my background. As I said, I have been doing this for a long, long time. And nowadays, I tend to be less technical and very much focused on how we make this stuff work within the business, which I'm assuming is as important to you as me. And so this aspect is looking at search and how, if you're really going to do search, you're only going to be able to do it if you are doing it hand in hand with the business, because search has got so integrated into anything and everything we do in Office 365 or Microsoft 365 or SharePoint, that it's a key area. So we're going to look at B2IT, okay, which is a very simple business to IT acronym, and look at how that's changed over the last sort of 10 or 15 years. And we're going to learn the importance of business in that kind of agile, in that kind of search strategy that we need to understand in the business. We understand some processes and around those agile processes. We're going to look at setting up search, maintaining a high quality service, all the kinds of things that need to be in play there. And then we're going to dive into the shallow end of SharePoint Online and enterprise search admin pages. So as I said, it's not overly technical. This is where everybody goes, I'm going back to my lunch now then. But it really is about working with the business. Now, as I said earlier, I will go wherever this needs to go, wherever we can on these subjects. So at any time, just unmute your microphone if you've got a question, if you've got a disagreement, or if you've got something that needs to be expanded. I'm really all ears and more than happy to do that. So are you guys all still there? Go on, unmute yourself. Tell me you're all okay.
We're here.
You're here.
Still here.
Yeah, nobody's got mouth feels. That's excellent. All right, good. All right, let's get ourselves started and try and work out where we're going to go. Oh, and there's a few thumbs up as well. Super. The world of IT in the business has changed significantly. And yes, this grey beard means that I have been around a while. So I've seen these changes. And provisionally, you know, maybe even as long ago as 10 years, maybe a little bit more, the basis was always that IT cared about IT, about that technology, and used to lead the organization and tell them exactly what technology they needed to use and how they were going to use it even. And they were the people that would go down to the production line and say, hey, we can do this in a technical way. And they would drive that technology forward. Well, of course, in the last 10, 20 years, that has changed significantly. Whereas we used to say to IT, hey, this is the technology here and this is what it works like. And the business would kind of feed back as to, you know, what could be improved. That has changed significantly around the way that information is exchanged. There are closer working relationships at the organization at the top of the business that actually kind of say, hey, you know, we make the money. We are the business. So we're going to tell you, IT, because you take a lot of our budget, we want to start telling you what we need. And that's part of this change where the business actually ends up defining the value that IT is going to deliver. And for many, many years as IT, you know, we would sort of say, of course, we're worth every penny. You know, can you just sign this $1 million support contract for product X? Those days have gone now because the business tends to come back and ask why. Why do I actually need to do that? Or even no, right? You need to go and find a better or a cheaper way of doing that. And as organizations moved into this agile framework, then that agile framework is all about value. So just so that I can see here, can you give me a kind of thumbs up if you guys are working in an agile way, in sort of agile planning and agile delivery? Cool. Look at that. There's at least 3 or 4 people. In this case, that's nearly 50%, but that's okay. So it is really all about value. And trust me, the only way we're going to get value nowadays is by starting to work closer and closer with the business. And there's certain technologies, Cortex or Viva is one of them. You cannot be successful, for example, rolling out Microsoft's new knowledge platforms without working with the business. And search is exactly the same. Give me another thumbs up if you have customized your search. If you're on Office 365 or online at the moment, obviously there's a lot more, or even on 2019, give us a thumbs up if you've customized your search experience. Okay, so if you've customized it more than 50%. Yeah, all of a sudden it goes very quiet, doesn't it? We had 1 thumbs up there to say they've customized it. And that's part of the problem. Out of the box, search itself is kind of adding value. It's already there and it's simple. But there's so much more. And that's what we're going to start to work on. How we add that extra value, okay, but how we try and do that without the business. So let's take a look at the way that information exchange has changed. So what the business wants from search is to push something or to find something. And that depends who they are. So we have this push-pull around the business. Some people need to advertise notices, news, HR, ways of working, new standards, processes, forms to fill out to claim expenses. And on the other side, they need to pull content in, how people are feeling, feedback, interviews, assessments, process improvements, continual improvements. So search is very much around push-pull. And even though that IT supports this business through closer relationships, and I'm sure those of you on the call that may have a few grey hairs or have been around, you've seen these relationships grow. They're not as close as they need to be. Very much, you know, the business is doing business things and they don't really think about IT. So as we think about some of these pushes, we think as HR that, you know, need to do those annual reviews. So they're pushing content out, or a compliance officer. You know, guys, I need you to follow this training. Guys, I need you to be aware of this. Security. Guys and girls, I need you to stop clicking on those links and that kind of stuff with all those phishing emails. And in terms of find, I need to be able to find training material. I need to be able to find the way that I do X or recruit a new employee, that kind of stuff. So in terms of Agile, that value that we want to look at, it really is about pushing something, finding something, taking something. So search is a big part of that, of course. Okay, spacebar doesn't work when you're presenting with MS Teams. Lesson learned today. Just check. No, I need to click the slide. Good. So this business to information technology push that I see, okay, is where the business value is defined by, yeah, sorry, the dog just put me off there. That's the problem with working from home, I'm sure you know. Anyway, the business value is described around those solutions and those partnerships. And of course, the IT partnership is one of those key things and always has been. And the solution is that information technology now needs to find a solution that delivers value that the business can perceive. And very often we think that we know what needs to be done within IT, and there are costs that we just need to incur. But the business goes, you know, I could get better value than that if we paid for an extra conference, or if we increased our marketing fees, because there's a better return on those kinds of investments. IT needs to understand that and the benefits to the business. And of course, the business needs to understand how IT can put that value in place. And Agile, of course, brings this iterative way of working. And what do we mean by that? So we mean that I can do a little bit at a time, get the value from it. And if that has added value, the business will trust me to do a little bit more and a little bit more. So the idea is we do something, we kind of review where that's gone, how well it went, what value they got. We get their feedback from the business, of course, and then we improve a little bit. There's some great videos on YouTube around Spotify and their business process. But what does that actually mean in search? And as we said, out of the box search does everything that most people need. Just a few slides. I think we'll run through this. I get most people said that they've not done customization, so you kind of know what is in here already. But the search bar, the way that that's changing, and of course this is Office 365, Microsoft 365, and I'm guessing. Well, actually, again, let's have a show of hands. I'm assuming you all have Microsoft 365. If not, I'll hand out my business cards. 1 and 2 and 3 and good. All right, so I'm not talking necessarily about something you don't know. And they've made it very easy. I mean, I'm sure there's those amongst us where we think that Microsoft have kind of dumbed down SharePoint with MS Teams a little bit too much, search and everything else. And so the kind of real depth now that IT can provide value is kind of behind it. So what we're going to see, what we're looking at now is just simple out of the box stuff. So it says in this particular search box, search this site, and it's saying exactly what it needs to say. If this was a hub site, it would say search these sites. If this was in the SharePoint page, it would say search everything. If it was in a document library, it would say search this library. It's very intuitive and very simple. And of course, we've had to do nothing. All we've had to do on this is turn it on. And then we get those search results where we can now filter that content very, very easily. Show me anything that's been changed in the last 3 months or the last year. And then there's more, of course, within our OneDrive. Why don't somebody just drop in here and tell me what OneDrive is? Give me a description of what you think OneDrive is. Now, I know you know this. So either you're very shy.
It's where we store our personal files that we then share out to a handful of people with SharePoint on the back end.
Thank you very much, Amber. So it's where we search it's where we store our personal files that we share with other people. So let's have a show of hands. How many people think that description is accurate? 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Well, some of you are going to learn something new because that today is not entirely accurate. For example, did you know that in OneDrive, if you search for something in OneDrive, you're actually searching every SharePoint library that you have access to? So you're not just searching your OneDrive. This is your gateway into all of your content. Okay. This actually says, hey, I need that document, but I can't actually find or remember where I stored it. And this is one of the users' biggest complaints. They say, yes, this is fabulous that I can create this little container and I get a lot of value out of being able to say, this is my project team, but I'm now a member of 75 of these SharePoint sites or MS Teams sites, and it's kind of getting confusing and I can never find anything because I can't remember where to put it. I've got to the age where I put something away safely and then I can never remember where I've put it. Okay, I don't know, again, give us a show of hands, but I'm sure I'm not on my own when you forget where you've put it. And how many times do you have to go to several sites or several folders? OneDrive has got a huge search engine behind it, again, out of the box. And so it will search any of the SharePoint sites that you've got access to, any of the documents that are shared by other people to use. So whereas OneDrive, and we feel, and thank you, Amber, for the answer, that it is where I store my content and I can share my content, but it's actually the place you go to now to find the content that you need or you have. And one of the wow factors of rolling out Office 365, Microsoft 365 is go to your OneDrive. Yeah, but I only store my content here. Wrong. This is actually where you can access and you can see all your content.
And Steve, did I hear you right too? It also is getting the MS Teams content?
Well, MS Teams content is stored in SharePoint. So if you're getting SharePoint content, you are getting MS Teams content, yes. So lists, not yet. Lists are coming. But any document library and any document library in a SharePoint site and any library in an MS Teams. So it'll basically give you access to all your content. And the thing about this is that it changes regularly. So if you are IT supporting this kind of stuff, go in there, check, see where the results are, and then take it from there. So is that new for people? Something they've learned something new today?
Yep, that was new for me.
Yeah, good. And of course, Amber's the only one that's got a voice. The rest of you, of course, are still chewing on your sandwiches and stuff, but that's good too.
New for me too.
Nice. Thanks, Angel. It's just so I don't feel lonely. I'm locked down like everybody else, and an extra voice and a new voice is always welcome. All right. Let us move on. Yeah, my sense of humor. That's why I do a podcast called Two Guys Just Talking Shit in a Bar, you know. All right. Yes, and the search stuff will obviously search different things. So let's move on. The thing about this search, even though I've just said out of the box, you can basically search and find anything. And as you start to learn these things like, hey, OneDrive is my search gateway to everything, okay, is that it's a set of features, but it's not really a feature. It is a strategy. So imagine how cool you guys can be and how much you will rock when you go back and you start showing people what you can do for OneDrive. And then by the end of this presentation, when we've looked at some of the really cool things that we can put into search, just by spending 2 or 3 hours working with some of the business, you really are going to look like rock stars. But it has to be a strategy. You have to kind of understand what the business needs to get out of search. And that actually means an old leadership and management trick. Okay, so I don't know how many times people have said to you in meetings and leaderships, you know, when you go to a meeting, you use your ears and your mouth in the same ratio. You try and listen twice as hard as you speak. Now, some of us, yeah, not very good at doing that, but that's fine. But when it comes to search, it is a great strategy. Listen to what the business needs. The problem with IT is that we think we know what they need, but that's not really true. I worked for a number of organizations, but one of my favorite ones was actually working for Heineken out in Amsterdam. And if I asked you how many beers you think they have on their books, I think you'd be rather surprised. So again, for some reason, I can't work out on my Teams why I can't view chat. It doesn't seem to be playing very well. But if I throw some numbers at you, you know, would you think it's more than 1,000 beers that they have on their books globally? Would you think it's more than 2,000, 3,000? It's actually in the thousands, high thousands, in terms of the number of products they have. Now, from an IT perspective, you know, we kind of think we make beer and we produce it and we start looking around and things like that. When all of a sudden you're trying to deal with Salesforce or a production organization, you suddenly start going, how big is this list that you need to have in the SharePoint site? What do you mean you've got 4,900 products that you need to add in that list? Now, we only find that out when we're asked to do something specific, but that's what IT need to change. IT knows about contents, but only what IT asks for a specific business need, and that is not very strategic. It's very tactical. So when people need to search and we go, yeah, but you can just search and away you go, then it's a lot bigger than that. And of course, there's technologies like Graph working in the background that's starting to expand that kind of, you know, terminology and term sets and metadata and manage metadata. We can't get those things right unless we start to work and ask with the business. So search is not a feature, it's a strategy. And if you are working in an agile way, then this is about, you know, what is your annual epic around search? What is it you're going to use search for that will start to bring value? Because it ain't small, but as we'll get there, we'll take it. We'll sort it from there. When I was putting this presentation together, I started to discover something called organizational structure. And you think organizational structure is an org chart. It's that PDF that is stored on the HR site that gets updated every 6 months. And, you know exactly what I'm talking about, I'm sure. But it's actually a science. This whole organization structure is a science that actually changes, and it's changing again at this moment in time. And so very quickly, as I started looking at this, you know, organizational structure was used for hunting for food before we kind of had Facebook. Now, it was a long time ago, I know, but I'm talking about before we had Facebook, when we used to have to try and corner animals with a kind of organizational strategy. And as that developed through the military and the wars, you know, this whole hierarchy and organizational structure has changed. But it got exciting this year. So in the 1930s, the scientists started to work out that employees actually drive that organizational structure, and they actually drive the power within the organization. And I'm sure you've heard that, every boss has a great secretary or a great, whatever you call them nowadays, but in the 30s, there was the person that had the connections and everything else. And so that organizational structure used to drive things forward. As we got around to the 60s and people were a bit more, freewheeling, they realized that it was the skills and the knowledge and the individuals and how they approach that drive that structure and that organization. And so getting to information changed and the business changed. And well, IT at that time, of course, used to just roll out all those big computers, but they had to, buy a laptop, not a laptop, of course, in the 60s, but buy a mainframe that delivered a certain functionality. By the time we get to today, theorists are looking at organization as a structure, as a form of strategy. There's so much transparency around in an organization today that anybody you speak to, not only do they have an opinion on how something should work, but they also have an opinion of where it will add the best value. And if we start using our ears and start to understand that, then that operational structure will become obvious to us. Now, as we look at that structure, and this is probably one of the most important slides that we're going to be talking about as we start to understand where this data is. So does this look familiar to you? I'm guessing
All I
yes.
can see is a circle, like it's loading.
Ah, is it? Has everybody been able to see the slide or not?
I can see it.
Okay, there. Well, someone needs to. You need to kind of wind that internet up a little bit more. Then I think that's fine. So what you're looking at here is obviously a typical matrix for an organization. Okay, and you can see services that are duplicated across, but effectively you're kind of seeing the C level in the organization, a management layer, and a delivery matrix. Now, when we also do our working with the business cortex, but it's now Viva, of course, this same structure gets looked in there, but it kind of changes around slightly differently. But let's just take a quick look at this for a minute and see where we go. So what we have is our CIO, the person that does our IT strategy, decides where we're going to spend our money, and they get their information from that management structure and that strategy for the organization about where it's going. Now, when it comes to search, we have all of these people sitting here that are experts in their own area. And when it comes to Viva or when it comes to Cortex, depending on whether you've picked up the new names yet, but that's where our power is here. So, it's somebody in finance that kind of knows the search terms that will get people to that financial information. And of course, the real area for search is here, our search definition experts, which are between the manager and our kind of delivery teams. And so if you are somebody looking for search or looking at search or responsible for search, then you need to be nurturing relationships here in those team leads, in those lower management levels, because they're the people that have got their finger on the pulse when it comes to knowing what content is around, what search terms, what people need to be able to do sales, marketing, production, manufacturing, whatever your business is. Then that's where most of the information is around those search terms. Previously, those single heads, of course, they know about their subject specific area. But when it comes to global and search across the organization, then this is where the organizational structure and where that aspect needs to be. Now, once you've done that and you've worked out what people might be looking for, we then kind of have to work out what this thing is going to look like and what it's going to give us back. And when it comes to search results, they will all have different kinds of impact and different kinds of value. And we need to understand what people need. So I don't know whether P for previous works here. Yes, it does. So when it comes to working out what people search for and what they need, then we have those search definition experts at that level that are able to kind of put in those global terms and global descriptions for those particular products. But those smaller blocks underneath in that delivery matrix, when it comes to surfacing content, then we need to think about what they need to see. And what we're going to see here is just a whole list of things that people search for and what your intranet, SharePoint, Microsoft 365 pages are trying to deliver. So does everybody, when they look at this slide, see something that is familiar to them or that you've searched for maybe in the last week or so? You know, just give me a thumbs up again if you see things that, you know, you regularly search for. Give me a thumbs down, I suppose, if you don't see anything at all, which would be very unusual. And again, it depends where you go. But notice that the objects are kind of different here. Some are processes, yeah? So we've got business cycles here, which are relating to financial details. So quarterly reports, holiday booking, shift patterns, who's on call this week, who's actually supporting the product next week. Search processes and policies. What do people need to be able to get to quickly and easily? One of the biggest problems with SharePoint is actually the amount of content that we store. It grows exponentially very quickly as it starts to roll out through the organization. And of course, it's all searchable. Okay, you got versioning, of course, which reduces multiple copies of content, but you still end up having to work out which terms are bringing about which content. And so when somebody searches for policies or process documents, you want to make sure they get the right one. And we'll look at how some of the tools on how to do that. But as you can see from here, there's all kinds of different contents, whether we've got direct links to things, to keywords, whether we've got frequently asked questions on how my job is, whether I get paid when it snows, how can I get my bus pass, what the company is doing from a marketing perspective. Hey, we're sponsoring this new cycling team. Hey, we've renamed the local basketball court. It's now going to be called Our Basketball Court. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And in the days when we used to be around the office, then where the local gym is and, you know, the benefits that you get working in our location. So defining those results are equally important. And this is something that most people forget. And if there's a second lesson, having done the OneDrive, that you should be taking away with you when it comes to search, is actually, what do these results look like? Because that's my value. That is what people need to see. And that's the question I need to ask you. Have you searched recently? Yes. Did you get what you looked for? And that is probably more important than anything else. And there's a bunch of tools in search to help us do this. So there's some links which I can send with the presentation and stuff. But if we look at these search results and we look at what they're actually delivering to us, we'll just look at some of the sheets in a moment or two, but let's just take a quick look here. So we need to be able to monitor those terms, so what people put in and what results they get. We need to be able to work out the important content like policies and process documents. Are people finding them? Are they getting the results they need? Hit rates on those finances and HR pages. Okay, those other areas around shifts and facilities. So let's just take a quick look at what they might look like. So this is kind of Microsoft Search if you're using Bing Search. So we're going to, again, look at this a little bit later on, but these are our top queries. Okay, and we can get this very easy. Here's another thumbs up question. How many people, and I didn't actually get the IT department, but I'm assuming that most of you are working in IT. So how many people actually have somebody whose job is specifically responsible for search?
Okay, that's a funny question.
Well, you know, if you look at your stats, you'll probably find that you got 10,000 searches for a large organization every week, or it might be every month. But how many people look at whether those searches were, whose job it is to find out whether they're, you know, valid? So that funny question, but it's a job. It's a need and a requirement if you're going to assess the value of the service.
I agree. I definitely agree on that. It's just something that I think a lot of companies don't see the value or spend the resources to have that capability.
Yeah, I agree entirely. In an agile environment, you obviously need to think about technical debt. It's one of the big ways of saving money when you start thinking about agile and safe processes. And search can rapidly become a debt and not a value unless people are understanding and steering it. And it doesn't take a full-time job, to be fair. It may well have used to do if you're dealing with their external website. When it comes to SharePoint, it's not. But anyway, take that away from you, that maybe somebody at least needs to spend a couple of days a month just doing a report, or even put the search results as some kind of performance indicator. And you can pull the stats easily enough, as we'll see in a minute or two. But just standard search results. If you want to dig down even deeper, there's a whole bunch of statistics. I think this has kind of changed a little since we took this screenshot, but you know, there's queries by day, queries by month, abandoned queries by day. So how many people put search in then walked away, meaning they didn't get their results? How many people put a search in but didn't click on any of the results? And what search terms did they use? So to be able to make it more efficient, then there are tools out there, but unfortunately, or fortunately, because it depends on the results, people don't always use them. Okay, so we've talked briefly, well, I never talk briefly, but we've talked about the organization and the relationship between IT and the business. We've talked about the types of people that understand the terms that we use within our organization that we want to be able to generate some results from. We've talked about thinking about the results that are being given back and ensuring they're of value. And we've talked about the statistics. But now let's just think about the governance and information and around some things that are not default within search, but are very easy to implement. Okay, so it's basically a set of tools within search that we can add immediate value. So again, another thumbs up question. How many people here have some input or are concerned or think about constantly and never sleep without a good whiskey about adopting their Microsoft or Office 365 service and how successful they want it to be? So people have problems driving people into SharePoint. Yeah. And it's the little things, a bit like that OneDrive. Hey, you can now got one place to get to all your content, which will drive people forward. But search can also do the same thing if it feels like they're getting those search results. So everything we're going to talk about now is a little bit customizable for your organization. And it also is good to drive those adoption things and about driving people into to the business and the organization into your new products. So we're going to talk about creating answers to business questions. Everybody thinks about creating a frequently asked questions list in HR. So come and ask some HR questions and come and ask some finance questions. I'm sure you've probably built those lists if you're dealing in that SharePoint space. So I can create answers to questions. Hey, how do I process my expenses? I can literally write that in as a question and I can get that answer back in search, as in the answer that says, okay, your expenses are covered on this system and we expect you to do it within 20 days. And here is the link that will take you to the more detailed web page. How to report a problem. Okay, you know, a lot of people use ServiceNow and they start typing in and there's a process in place, but people still like to be able to ask those questions. You know, how do I create a purchase order? How do I recruit staff when I'm working from home? How do I know when I'll be coming back to work and be in the office? How are you ensuring that our organization staff stay safe? How will I get my holiday bonus this year? All those kinds of questions can literally be typed in or imported in onto a spreadsheet. This is the question and this is the answer I want to give. We can focus on types of information. So we can focus on particular keyword search. So I can say, if somebody searches for this, I want you to give that result. So you can start to build people into keywords. So for example, OneDrive. When somebody types in OneDrive into search, this is what I want them to get. I want them to go to this page on SharePoint that gives them everything they need to know about OneDrive. How it works, the best advantage, limitations of it, how to transfer or upload content. So I decide those keywords that are going to help my adoption. Bookmarks. HR will get me to this HR page. Okay, I can bookmark a particular part of a page. I can bookmark an external system if I want. I don't have to. If it's URL based, I can get to it. So I can put bookmarks in. I can do locations. I can type in a particular building. I can type in a particular location. You can actually do maps. We'll show you a few images. I think if I didn't rip them out, but we can do that. We can do decision settings. So do we want people to get their results in Bing search? So sales team, if they search for our product, I want them to be able to get the results from inside my organization, but I also want to be able to get the results outside my organization. Do I want them to be able to get results from Twitter? Is a marketing person on certain hashtags want to be able to mix that content up? Okay, so these are all things that continually needs to be improved. And finally, more importantly, for these search definition experts, you need to identify the owners of this content, because we kind of can see what search results are coming in, but we have no idea unless we talk to marketing that there is a new product name out there that we would like people to be able to find, that there is a new department created, there is a new process in purchasing, there is a new CEO person, there is a new internal communications. A lot of this stuff today just comes in news. I tell you what, here's another thumbs up question. How many people get an email every day that says this has been updated on our intranet? Or this is some company news. These are the latest. A daily email. Really? Surprised? Nobody? Okay, you're all still alive? Blow me a kiss. You're not. You're just fed up. Well, there's a kiss. Hey, cool, cool, cool. Great, good. Glad you're still there. But a lot of people get those emails and they can kind of disappear. I get them every day and from a few of my customers just because I'm part of their system, and I don't read them. I never read them. There's a lot of organizations around adoption, around being able to sell this new business news, where people are just ignoring the emails after the first one or two. So even if you have a communication plan that says we'll tell them 10 days before, then we'll give them a reminder 5 days, and then we'll tell them 2 days, and then the day before it happens, we'll tell them. Trust me, by the time you've sent them 2 emails, they're going to stop reading the important one, which is that third and fourth email before something important happens. But if you can put it on a page that appears as a news item because they're interested in it as part of a search result, or you can give them a particular keyword that say, hey, this is the one that will tell you what's happening about your product or your change or your migration, then that's better than people getting emails that they just start to get fed up with. So search is great, but think about that business governance and about what you want to use it for. So I'm going to kind of quickly run through just a few images to show you where some of these things can be updated. So this is the kind of new search information page. So search and intelligence. And you can see here on these insights, the top queries, the things that people responded to, the queries that get no results, and the queries that are abandoned. So people are asking for this, but obviously they just go away, or people ask for something in terms of the no results queries, and they might click on 6 things on the page, which means that, the search query they're putting in is not giving the results back. And this is what I say about getting somebody that spends a couple of days a month, maybe, all right, and starts looking at how efficient your search is. It's easy to accept the out-of-the-box search, but unless you know that it's delivering what it needs to deliver, then you're just wasting everybody's time. And then we get to that area where we can do these customizations, and it's relatively easy to do. So, you've got a tab on answers where I can put acronyms in. So now I can just search on those 3 letters that mean something within my organization and nowhere else. All right. I can put CEO in to Google search and I get definition, of that C-level role. If I put CEO in on my search, then I can actually put somebody's name in and I can actually put the office contact details in. So those acronyms within my organization, those bookmarks, I talked about those bookmarks. I want to be able to type in IT and I want to see the IT public site top of the list every single time. Those floor plans, I want to search for Steve Dalby, and in my search results, I get his phone number, but I also get a map that says if you go to floor 14 and you go to this location, that's where Steve Dalby's sitting. And if you're really, really clever, and this takes a lot of time, you can actually deal with mobile working too. So I can have a location of my house if I want to share that content, or if I don't know where I'm sitting in the office, there are ways of when they log in and the location from their IP address or their phone number they've typed in on their phone system, and then that location can automatically be updated so you always know where people are. And those questions and answers, incredibly simple but really powerful. When you can turn around and say you're going to be migrated this week. You're going to move, your content will move from your file share into your OneDrive, or it'll go from your file share into this SharePoint site. So you can actually search for, when's the HR migration going to happen? Or tell me about that migration date, or tell me where my content is going to go to. And they can get specific, pertinent questions based upon the type of question that you have it. I'm in HR, tell me about migration. I'm in finance, tell me about Microsoft 365. So there's some very simple and easy ways. And this customized information is only worth value to the business if the business know that it's going to give them value. So what do the business needs to know? What is it that you need to tell them when you give them a bookmark or an acronym or a question? And really, more importantly, will it change tomorrow? Because this is a strategy, remember? It's not actually telling them once and then expect them to keep the same information for the next 6 weeks. It's not. It's going to change. And so keeping on top of it and having somebody in there is you're good to go. I'm very conscious that I've been talking for 45 minutes, and I know that I've tried to keep you excited with a few thumbs up and stuff, but I'm assuming that if you had questions, you would have asked. So I've got a couple, 3 more slides, and then we can really dig in on any of those other kind of questions. We talked about this push-pull matrix, and this slide is to try and show that. So as you can see here, can you actually see my mouse moving on this before I start out of interest? No?
No.
I wonder if I have a view slides in high contrast. No. Go to a particular slide. This is the first time I've actually presented within Teams. So I was just kind of trying to work out whether I'd got a point. Doesn't matter. So on the left-hand side, on the pull here, then we've got purchasing that is actually saying, look, you know, I need information around shipping from IT. And I need to send out some purchasing information to business units, or I need to push information out from sales into marketing. So this is just to show you that push-pull matrix that is an important part of that information flow around your organization. And as I said, I am running quite quickly on now because we're getting to repeat some of those things, and then we'll do a roundup. There is the capability when you talk about Power Apps to actually point people directly into those applications. So one of the things that Microsoft did really cleverly was they had an old timekeeping system, and they didn't really want to spend what would be several $1 million on actually creating a new timekeeping system and then rolling it out to their 20,000 employees around the world, or whatever the number of employees there are nowadays at Microsoft. So what they did was they actually used Power Automate and a connector to actually modernize the interface at the front and be able to control all that interaction between those different applications. And then because of the way that they did it, it was an answer to a question. So, you know, I need to record my time away, please. And then this Power App would pop up and actually give them how many days left they had on their vacation, for example. And so your search results are not just about saying, hey, if you want to, you can click on this link and go there. You can actually get into that interactiveness of the application immediately and start to fill out a vacation request, knowing how many you've got left, or running a query on a particular piece of information. So where is that order number 75 gone? Where are we on that production line with products for customers X and Y? What are our new customers this month? There's all those kinds of questions, and of course we can do intelligent queries and searches using search connectors to be able to retrieve that type of content. That's the old look and feel. This has now been replaced with that first view. So there you go. All right, just to a few more slides just to round this off, and how we can approach the business. Remember that search results are enterprise-wide, whereas search terms tend to come from that management layer, that's that team lead or that lower management level, but the results are displayed worldwide. And you're not going to be able to go to one person and get all the search results for the whole organization. So you really are going to need to talk to somebody in sales and marketing to get results around, or get search results or search terms. The idea is to put a search design board together Okay, pull the relevant people in, understand and explain to them the value of search, and understand that their opinion, and help them understand their opinion is important. So enterprise messages, they're kind of defined by management. So, hey, you need to make sure you've got the right result is not defined by one person. And identify those search definition owners, okay, those levels below the management, and then identify the result audiences. And it's not difficult. We can now get results on what pages and what documents and what content come back in those search results. And then we can also find out when they were clicked and whether there's a correlation with that search and that click and opening of that content. So it doesn't take long to be able to create those data sets, those Power BI data sets, for example, that actually mean that I only need to spend a day a month on this, and I can see what content people are asking for and not finding, and what content is not being, that they're not finding that is not indexed, that you can identify what results are most popular and that kind of stuff. And of course, graph and all those King's Delve and all that, they're all helpful and present and help you find that content and help those users find that content. But a search design board, if you're going to take a serious approach to search, is a must. And even if you're not going to take too serious approach, people like to feel involved. So if you want to get closer to the business, that business to IT, then a search design board is the way. Very close now, very close. Remember, enterprise messages defined by management. We understand the value of search. The business understands that best value and understand that role that you play in that value and understand the value of working with the business. So be agile. Remember, you're going to fail fast. You're talking to people that don't fully understand search. They're going to tell you something and they think that's what they want, but it doesn't matter. Hey, we're going to get the stats sorted out. So set up some frequently asked questions. It doesn't matter if nobody uses them. It's just part of a database. But if you don't put things in that people want, then you're not going to know. You're not going to add value. So fail fast. Learn, repeat, improve. Learn from your mistakes, repeat the things that were good, and improve as a continuous improvement process. And there you go. So just some ideas around next steps. We can open them up for discussion, but this is basically the last slide. So again, just to remind you, that search design board, choose the people carefully, understand the value that search can bring within your organization, understand where it will actually save money. It will drastically reduce the amount of emails that people get if you get a good search policy in place. The business gets the why we need these results, and they write the user stories. As an end user, I want to be able to go to my search page and find the latest stock figures for the organization. And then prioritize. Work out what questions they need. Work out what bookmarks they need. Work out who's going to give you more information. Look at the new people coming in the organization. Get them motivated to improve your search results. And then repeat as required. And I think that's probably it. Thanks for listening. So yeah, Steve, Dalby and Moraine, Office 365 Distilled. That's where you can hear us talking about this kind of stuff all over the place. And now I'm going to stop talking. I hope you've enjoyed the last 50 minutes, but any questions here? Anything you liked, why don't you tell me? Anything you didn't like, tell me that too. And I hope I've not bored you too much.
Well, I really like the idea of kind of setting up a committee or a group of people that you bounce search off of to do that. I think that I'm definitely going to take that as a takeaway to do that in my organization, because I think it makes a lot of sense, because when I'm doing it and have done it in the past, I've always done it in a vacuum, it's not as nearly as useful as it could be. And so I do have a lot of users that will ping me and say, hey, I tried to use search and I didn't get something, or, can you help me? And so those are the people I'm going to hit up to help out.
Yeah. Cool. Good. Anybody else? Did you guys Sorry.
I really like the information about, I honestly did not realize OneDrive had that search capability outside of its just initial self. And I being in IT, I should have known that. I didn't even realize it.
So many things change on a daily basis. There really is.
That was great information. That's going to be very helpful because we're putting forth an effort to get users to really rely and understand even just the Office 365 as a whole. We're still struggling with the organization, understanding those connections of all those different pieces. So if they don't understand that, they're struggling to even know where to go to find things.
Yeah. And the secret is to try and put those connections in without them realizing they need to understand those connections. And that's where search is so cool, because you can just, like the OneDrive example, like the best bet searches, you can just put keywords in knowing that they're going to get specifically pointed to a particular page for help. So
Wonderful.
You can use search to be able to force them in a particular direction. One of my favorite keywords exercises when I'm training and with an organization is, okay, I'd like you to put down your date of birth in reverse, your dog's name, and your last initial. And that is now your new search term. And so whenever you have to put a keyword in or enterprise keyword on search word on SharePoint, just put that in and you will always find your content back because nobody else will have that search term. And it just shows the importance of finding those keywords in the organization, because what do we think about? So uniquely identifying stuff is cool. Good. Anything I got wrong, guys? Something you disagree with?
Just lots of new areas to go and play with now.
Good. All right. Well, I kind of been doing this a long time. I was literally working on SharePoint when it was first released. In fact, I saw some beta products. My mentor was actually the 7th MCSE in the world. And so, yes, I started very young, and I've done a number of migrations and everything else. So as I said at the beginning of the slide, at SciSteve, or if you just do a Google search on SciSteve, or scisteve.rocks is the website. I'm happy to have a chat and help, point you in the right direction, throw some advice at you, and by all means, look up Office 365 Distilled. Maureen and I would normally have been doing this together, but he's not been able to. So yeah, we're more than happy. It's part of the community work, and yeah, more than happy to throw an opinion at you, or hey, you said this would work and it doesn't, then I'll not tell anybody else. So it's always worth getting that good feedback.
Thanks for your time. Really helpful information.
Good.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And anybody else have any more questions? And I guess not. So, Steve, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And you just got one more subscriber to your whiskey channel, by the way. I'll send you a picture of my whiskey bar.
Nice. Well, enjoy that. You'll enjoy it. It's good fun.
Yeah.
Whether you can work out where the next whiskey comes from.
Exactly. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you again, and everybody, we'll see you next month, April 1st.
Hey, guys.
David.
Enjoy the spring. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.